Hello, folks. I'm Joe Wesley of Taking Your Hot Seat Challenge to discover an ingredient of your secret sauce. Thank you for joining us. My guest today is,
Hi, I'm Brian Johnson. I'm a business relationships coach.
okay, no advertising, Brian. We're not quite there yet, but thank you very much for your offer of information. For those who are visiting us for the first time, thank you for joining. For those who are coming back, thank you even more for returning. A little bit about of what we do. The purpose of this is to discover who is this masked man? Who is this guy, Brian Johnson? And for me, I'm to poke at him to see, discovering who he is over the 30-minute time period. At some point, we'll start talking about his business and how he brings unique value to his industry, to his ideal market that nobody else can lay claim to. This is unscripted, it's unrehearsed. I don't send him a list of questions to get back to me on his actual performance. So if it gets mucked up and mistakes are made, that's the joy of doing it unrehearsed format. Now, I start off by asking, format is for the first 15 to 20 minutes, we talk about who he is. And I begin by asking him which his favorite pastime. And then in the last 2 minutes, we go into his business. And then we talk about who this masked man is, who this guy is, in terms of his business, how it can work for you better than the competition out there for your particular needs. So, Brian, and starting this off, what is your favorite pastime?
Thank you, Joe. And thank you for having me. I'm glad to be here.
Okay.
Favorite pastimes, I have a couple of them. One is that I really enjoy hiking, being out
Oh,
in
excuse me.
nature.
Can I interrupt one more time? I apologize
Yes.
for this. For the market, every now and then, or the audience, every now and then I will look down. I keep a slate at the moment empty of key points I think that I want to emphasize with Brian for you, the audience. If I'm looking down, it's not like I'm falling asleep or getting bored. It's because
No worries.
I'm making a
If you
note.
do,
So
I'll poke you. How about that?
fair enough. Thank you, Brian. So you have actually two favorite pastimes?
Yeah, I enjoy hiking, and another one that we talked about. I play drums. I've done that since a young age. So.
Well, I work in a chronological order that I'm assuming you were playing drums before you went hiking, or was it the reverse on a timeline
Kind
basis?
of both. I spent most of my childhood out in the woods. We were lucky to have forests a lot of times behind our house.
Hmm.
And I started playing drums in middle school. Sixth grade, you were required to play an instrument in a band. So that's
Oh,
where that started.
interesting. So it was a matter of that's interesting. A school would require that. That has a lot of aesthetic value of
Yeah.
its giving to society, you might say. Why did you choose drums?
Well, I didn't. I chose saxophone at first, and it was way too complicated with all those keys.
Right.
And the band instructor said, "Well, all right, well, look around the room, choose something else." And the guys in the back were having a lot of fun. It's like, I want to go hang out with them. What are they doing? They were playing drums. So,
Hey, gotta have priorities. I like that. And you have a focus. So you began playing the drum. How long did you play it for? I mean, at the time you were what,
yeah,
nine-ish?
well, yeah, that was so like a orchestra band type thing.
Right.
So after that, a couple years later, I my parents let me get a drum set in the house.
Hmm.
So they were very patient and with me on that.
Right.
And that's kind of where it started, learning how to play different types of music.
Okay. I understand drum playing is some people think it's a follow-up to the music. You almost have to, I think you kind of set the beat and then you set the moment and the
Oh yeah,
tempo.
the rhythm, the tempo, especially because you, as the drummer, you control the tempo of the whole song.
Okay. And I think most people aren't aware of that. And I was shocked me when I learned that also. So when you got out of high school, did you continue drum playing?
I did actually, was in a couple of bands in college, and then a couple of bands after college, and one toured the southeast a little bit, but then got married. Well, I was married by that time, but then we had our first baby, so things
Hmm.
had to change a little bit. I couldn't be gone as much.
Right, I can hear that. Or certainly playing the drums at 4 o'clock in the morning may not work too well for the household
Yeah.
either.
What the baby can wake you up, but you can't wake him up, right? So,
True, true. It works in that manner. And you said you like hiking. Now,
yes.
I, I, I'm an indoor person more than an outdoor person. But
Okay.
when I do go outdoors, I like to take my camera because I want to, it gives me a sense of
Oh yeah.
fountain of youth. And this is not really a matter of what it does for me. So when you go hiking, was it a matter of exploring what's that, or looking at the sunshine, or looking at smelling flowers? Did you have a focus, or for the,
Yeah.
how
Yeah,
did that work?
well, as a kid growing up, I just loved being out in the woods and exploring and going on adventures and things like that. And as an adult, um, you can still do that. You just go walk in the woods.
Hmm.
Um, and so that's what I get out of it, is that kind of sense of adventure and getting out there, but the scenery and just being in nature, the smells, the sounds, the earth under your feet.
Right.
It's very therapeutic.
You've just answered a question that I was about to ask. Some people go walking to escape, to
Mm.
find peace of mind. And I guess it's a sliding scale. Sounds like you walk more for the enjoyment of it, the experience of it, the learning of it. Am I, or is it a
Oh, yeah,
combination of?
for sure. And but the peace of mind is a side effect.
Okay,
That's a
I get
benefit.
that. Okay, so it wasn't so much you're getting away from something as you're getting into something, in
That's a
terms
good
of
way of putting
priority.
it. I like
Okay,
that. Yeah.
well, thank you, folks. I'm kind of good at this. I like to say, pat myself on the back.
You've done this before.
Okay, don't weaken the case here for me. Anyway, that being said, the when you do walk, did you free boys? I'm going to make an assumption. Boys would collect things, frogs
Oh yeah.
did you have favorite animals you would like to poke at? Did you have water that you'd like to walk along if that was
Yeah.
available as a
Not
preference?
animals so much, but we had in so we moved a lot growing up. One
Mm-hmm.
place we lived was in Ohio, and the woods behind our house, the trails led to a little creek,
Mm-hmm.
and the creek had a bend, and there was a log across the creek tree that had fallen, and there was like a little island there,
Okay.
and there was moss growing over the island, and there was like a little puddle with tadpoles in it.
Hmm.
I thought of it as Terabithia. Do you remember that book, A Bridge to Terabithia?
Well, for those who haven't read that book, what is that about?
It's a fantasy book about these two kids that go exploring in the woods behind their house, and they
Mm-hmm.
they find a magical world, and it's called
Okay,
Terabithia. And there's a
I see.
bridge that takes you over to it, so that's what it
Interesting.
always reminded me of.
So it sounds that also is more that exploration is also, well, exploration discovery. It's an emphasis
Mhm.
maybe of semantics. I get caught up in that very much. Do you go out with a sense that I'm going to see what new I can find, or do you go out with you enjoy the moment? I'm giving you multiple choice questions here to
Yeah.
get a sense
Mhm.
of direction, or any of the above. Um, would
Yeah,
you say?
nowadays, so I've hiked more recently in the last, say, 3 to 4 to 5 years with
Mhm.
my son.
Okay,
He joined a scout group, here in town, and they go on a lot of hiking trips, and so I
right.
started going on hiking trips with him,
Hmm.
and the goal of those is you have to get from point A to point B because you have, like,
Right.
2 days on a
Okay.
weekend. But so I would get everything out of it. So it wasn't so much exploring as far as, oh, what can we go find? It's the actual being out in nature and walking. But I still got all the other stuff out of it. So
What part of the country do you live in now?
southeast. So we're in South Carolina.
Okay. And the Carolinas have mountains, I think, yes?
North Carolina does. The Blue Ridge Mountains kind of start in North Georgia, and that's
Right.
where the Appalachian Trail starts
Hmm.
and goes all the way through the mountains of North Carolina, and those feed into the mountains. Those mountains
Okay.
continue into Virginia and go all the way up.
Okay. So I'm not good at geography, so let me walk away from that very quickly. But do you enjoy flat land versus mountain environment? Does it matter? Are you more of a summer guy than a winter guy? Does it matter?
Well, summers here are pretty rough.
Hmm.
They're very humid and hot, so I prefer not to go in the summer.
Okay.
And elevations are good because I mean it's a better workout, but you get the views. If you just stay flat, you don't get those overlooks.
Hmm. Now, when you walk with your son, some people walk very quietly because they're focused on the walk. Some people
Mhm.
use it as an engagement, you mentioned discovery and learning. Do you dialogue with your
Yeah.
son much during these moments,
We
or
have opportunities to, but I've found there's 2 types of hikers, and it kinda depends on how good a shape you're in and how talkative you are normally. I'm not
fair?
normally all that talkative, and I'm not in great shape, so I don't talk that much when I'm hiking. I'm just trying to
You
get
got two strikes
survive.
already going against you.
Oh, yeah. But no, it's great because we do get those opportunities.
When you come back from the walk, on average, is there any dialogue after, or do you go out for a hamburger after, or things like that?
Yeah, on those trips, typically come back on a Sunday morning, and so we'll stop and get a breakfast somewhere.
Mhm.
Yeah, so that's always a good thing to do.
So maybe I'm missing something. I think you said earlier, this walks aren't necessarily a 1 or 2 hour walk. Do you do it like over an extended day? You do camping as part of it also?
Right, yeah, those are like weekend long trips.
Okay.
And outside of that, more these days, I've just been going on a Saturday or something. But those were always like a 2 night, and then
Okay.
you come back. Yep.
I feel that. Now, I'm intrigued. You say I'm not in great shape either, folks. So I can relate to that one very clearly. But it sounds like despite not being in great shape, it doesn't get in the way of your enjoyment of walking. Yes.
Yeah, well, great shape. I'm comparing myself to someone that can hike like 16 miles
Oh, okay.
in a day, and it doesn't phase them.
Hmm.
That's the kind of people who go out and hike on these trails. Um, but yeah, I mean, just going for a walk around the neighborhood, and we have a little dog, so that helps me get
Oh,
out of that. I work at home, so every night before bed, get at least one walk in the day, taking the dog out if you
well,
don't
that's
get any.
nice. Now, when you go on a walk, do you set a goal? Like we're going, do you say we walk until we stop, or do we say we're going to walk from point A to point B during this time period together, say with your son?
Hmm. On those trips, it was always point A to point B because, and it was a group, so
Okay.
we had to cover, say, 20 miles over 2 days, so each day you gotta do 10 miles. So,
Hmm.
yeah, it's very, planned out.
Now you mentioned the Boy Scouts. Then is this in lieu of a group environment, or because I get the impression that many of the walks with your son were more solitary than group based? But
Actually, no, they were mostly with the scout troop. Mhm.
okay, fair enough. Well, then the next question that comes to mind was, I'm assuming that there's some educational moments also. It's not walking picking your nose. That there's certain burden of making observations, of collecting. Is that
A little bit. These are older guys. It's
okay?
mostly boys. It's co-ed, but so mostly like late teens. So with the scouts, there's the badges and all that. This
Right.
is a was a different kind of group called Venture Scouts,
Oh, okay.
and that's what we both liked about it was that it wasn't so formal with all the badges. It was like focused on those trips. So yeah, there's some education, but it's not like the main goal.
And you say focus on the trips. To me, it's like that's the bone, putting meat on the bone. So I'm here. I'm this a scout young man, and so what's my focus? Watch where I'm stepping, making
Mm.
observation.
Yeah, well, I mean, it is a learning. There is a learning curve to it because we've had people go out for the first time, and you don't. It's not natural to know what to do on a hike like that because it's not just walking. Like
Hmm.
you're carrying a 30, 40 pound, well, hopefully just 30-pound pack on your
Okay,
back because you got to carry your water, your food, everything. And then, yeah, you have to watch your footing so you don't injure yourself because if you're out, in the middle of nowhere, no one can get to you.
right.
Everybody would have to carry you back if you got injured. So you have to be very conscious of where you're stepping.
I'm a slow rider, folks, so hang in there with me. So when these events have occurred, generally the Boy Scouts when I was in it, it was always some form of recognition over
Mm,
time.
Mhm.
What would the recognition be to these young men and ladies who have done shared these moments of adventure
Oh, yeah.
walking?
Yeah, there are ranks in that, organization, that branch of the organization as well. Um, Mostly, it's the memories, and when the group gets together, you talk about, experiences you've had and trips you've been on, and there's a lot of bonding that goes on, when you share an experience like that.
Be right with you. Well, what I'm going to do now, I think I have some good dots that I can connect here. So I'm going to ask you, in terms of a shift of focus, what led you to what you're doing now? What was the path that got you from where you were to where you are now, and explaining what you do?
You mean for work?
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I was introduced to a philosophy and a platform, um, about 12 years ago, that is designed for building relationships,
Okay.
and a lot of people use it in business. My wife was using it in her business, and I saw what she was doing and the success she was having, and I just started sharing it with people. But I had not been a business owner before, so it was quite a learning curve.
And what is it exactly that you do?
Yeah, so that platform is a program that mails personalized greeting cards and gifts. So, like I was saying, it was something my wife was using in her business. I started sharing it with other types of businesses because I saw the potential and how they could, they all have customers that they need to follow up with and show appreciation to.
Right.
And they all have, all small business owners, have challenges of staying top of mind with people over the long term. So that's what I do. I coach, small business owners and professionals in, building connection and nurturing relationships.
I hear that. And for those who aren't familiar with what you do, could you give me a little bit more description?
Sure. Yep. So when I start, on a discovery call is usually our first step, and I learn about the business. I learn who their customers are, what kind of volume that they're dealing with, and try to, find out what some of their challenges are, and then I design my coaching strategies around that to fit their needs and to provide a solution for them. And then, I get them started, using our platform and implementing these strategies.
Now, when you say send, there's a digital world now. So and a lot of people will send things in a digital manner. What's your vehicle of getting the information
Sure.
out on your client's
It's
purpose?
actually old school snail mail, if you can believe it.
Hmm.
So, kind of a lost art, the thank you note, the 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 happy birthday card, the holiday card.
Hmm.
So these are things going to, physical things going to mailboxes.
Okay. Now, are these stock things you pull off the shelf to kick out there? How does that work on behalf of your client?
Yeah, there's two options. The the main selections are kind of like a Hallmark stores. You walk
Hmm.
in and there's aisles of all the different categories,
Hmm.
and you can certainly choose those. We do that, but in addition to that, we, do something that I call kind of like lifestyle celebration,
Hmm.
where you really keep an eye and an ear out for the people in your network and your customers about what's going on in their lives,
Hmm.
and then you celebrate that. So if if they post a picture on Facebook that, they won an award for their business, you can actually, grab that image, put it on the front of one of our cards, and send that to them, so they're customizable as well.
Okay. So the client would have the option of the usual and customary. You would do the grunt work, I'm assuming, on their behalf, or you make it more personal, more personalized to your client's needs. Uh,
Yeah,
or it
right,
is
and
beyond.
that part of it is DIY, so they can customize it as they want.
Okay.
And we do have another option that I can talk about if we have time, um, other than DIY. But yeah,
Okay, that's a good, interesting point. For those of you folks who are visiting us for the first time, in the description, there's contact information for Brian and for myself. So if you have any further questions along that, by the way, slight commercial break, please remember to join or link into my podcast format that remember to share what we've done here between myself and Brian. If you like or don't like, either or, please leave comment because we can get, I would rather hear what you don't like perhaps than what you do like. I get the glory already. It's nice to hear it though, but we can always make ourselves better from your input. We will get back to you. We do audit these comments. So please subscribe, share your stories. Please come back and visit, share your comments also, and get in touch with Brian. I'm going to go into the part now of connecting the dots as I see it. And again, my plan is, and my tagline is, I don't claim that I see dead people, but I will help you discover unique value about yourself that nobody has laid claim to,
mm,
that gives you a distinct advantage over your competition. And I call that your secret sauce. So I begin by asking what's your favorite pastime because it goes to the passion of the person, as opposed to, oh, tell me about yourself. Oh, my third
sure.
divorce, my fifth marriage I've sold. It's not about who this person is. When I'm hearing with Brian, when you said you talked about it was a compulsory issue to play musical instruments. So it wasn't like
Mm,
you got zapped by lightning so much, but you had to do it. But you tried something you liked initially, didn't quite work out, perhaps. You didn't stop. You couldn't stop, to be real, but you chose the guys in the back of the room playing with the drums. It's
mm,
the sense of fellowship. And you smiled when you said that, that drew you to them. And I get that. And for those, including myself into fairly recently, that thought drummers were just kind of making noise in the background, you guys set the tempo. There's a
mm.
serious responsibility that you have to work for everybody else. What's that little thing that goes back and forth, the timer
Oh,
thing?
metronome.
So the drummers are the
Yep.
metronomes
Oh
of the
yeah.
music, as I see it. And you, some people could have said, well, it didn't work the one time with playing the brass instrument. Was it clear? I forgot,
Oh,
saxophone?
saxophone. Yep.
The
Hmm.
saxophone. That, okay, let me find something else. So you move on. You don't get stymied by the same of saying, hey, I got nothing I can work with here. The one thing I like about what I observe with you in terms of the joy of walking is it's the time, as I see it, for you reflection. You do it as a proactive, positive experience. Yeah, it deals with the other stuff, also pushes it in the background, but it's not like I need to get away from everybody. Let me go out
Mm,
and
right. Yep.
disappear in the bar for 5 hours or something like that.
Yep.
Uh, and you take it seriously. You still do it, and even though you're not natural born to get out there and hike 16 miles in one session,
Yeah.
you still find cause of it, and you take it one step further. You join the Scouts and you volunteer with that. And there's a purpose to it. It's, yes, let's have fun with it. Let's have fellowship with it, much like the drumming experience in itself. But it's the same thing. You're now with groups of
Mm,
people doing something.
mhm.
I'm going to hazard a guess that perhaps I'm an introvert, perhaps you're an introvert also. So this experience gives you a chance to be an extrovert. You get
I am
out there.
actually.
Don't sound surprised, please. Help me out here. But you see, you're actually which, extrovert or introvert?
Introvert. Yep.
Okay, fair enough.
Yep.
So it gives you a chance to get out with people. It gives you a chance to engage with people. And you talk about the issue of the adventure walking, that it's more than simply to earn a badge. It's not something mechanical, as opposed to it's engaged, it's reflective, it's a learning process. Because when I was a Boy Scout, you learn that badge, okay, on to the next item. So it's
Right.
like automatic category uh, action. But here's something, it's an experience that you can grow with. And you talk about building relationships as part of your dialogue. even younger. Back to the drummers having fun leading the program, says you're not one to sit back and let the world pass you by, as I see it, or to keep up to people. You're actually making things happen. So what I'm getting here, when you talk about the cards themselves, first off, I think it's an interesting concept because everything is now going digital. I call it the microwave generation. Everything you can 30 seconds or less, maybe
Instant
45.
gratification. Yeah.
Yeah. And then, okay, next to the item, but no, this has some lingering value to it. As I'm hearing it, is and anybody can do what you do and make the same argument. But what I'm seeing here is it's really who you are. It's a progression of involvement. It's some people are very proactive in marketing themselves. Many people aren't. So here's a technique, as I'm hearing, that you can provide something of unique existence, which provides distinct value on behalf of your clients. For those that may not be proactive, that's okay. Get your CRM program together and make it happen. You provide through your company a service that can keep you in the minds of your audience. And as people feel that you care about them, not just when you're trying to get their money, but you care enough about them to recognize what's important to them, then they're, I would assume, more inclined to get back to you also. Am I
Oh,
far
yeah.
off on that thinking?
Oh, yes, certainly. Yep, when people know they're appreciated, they'll stay your customer, they'll recommend you to others.
Mhm.
That's not something they're gonna do automatically.
Fair enough. And what I'm also getting on top of that, you're not doing this again for the mechanical part of it, like you let's get your badge of the moment. You're doing it for the meaningful part of it, the growth part of it.
Mhm.
And I'm gonna look at my notes again about building relationships. That was you talk about connectivity. That was your wording, but I wrote in red. Rephrase that. That blank sheet of paper now has scribble all over it. If you can
Okay.
see it well. So it's about building relationships, the connectivity of it. It's about sharing experiences, and that's what these cards do. That there's something that your client's associate has done that you're acknowledging, recognizing on their behalf, and it feeds back. Is that the purpose of what you're trying to accomplish here, or
Yes,
something
and it
different?
is a longer term approach, you're right.
Mhm,
And I don't work with companies or businesses that are transactional. There's nothing wrong with that
mhm,
business model. But, my clients value relationships and they really depend on those relationships. And those take a longer view. And when you can reach outside of the digital world and touch people with, send them something tangible they can hold in their hand that makes an emotional connection. That's where you're really building that connection and
mhm.
nurturing those relationships over time.
I hear that. And as complex as it seems to be, folks, and it's done correctly, your company does all the grunt work, yes?
Oh yeah, I mean, yeah. So, and we talked about snail mail. That's one reason that people don't really do it anymore is because it takes so much time. You're
Mhm.
not, people aren't going to sit and go buy the paper card and buy the stamps and do it all. And our service does all that for you. You really just have to choose, write your message, and click send, and everything else is done.
Fair enough. And I get the sense of having dialogue with you and your history of your passion is that you are committed to what you do. You're committed to providing value of what you do and providing the experience. It's more than just a mechanical, well, these are the 3 steps, give me your money and we'll kick it out.
Oh no, yeah, and that's why I call myself. That's why my title here is a coach because that's really what I do. I stay with my clients. I help them all throughout the process, and even
Mhm.
anything they need all along the way.
And that's the concept here, folks, that it's a matter of, I'm laughing at myself, folks. Uh, I was trying to bring up our name so you might not confuse who we
There's your
are.
name.
Yeah, I couldn't find it. Now here,
Now it
live.
appeared.
That's the nice thing about live stuff. We get to discover even more about what's what. But on the other hand, what I like about even this is pre-recorded live, it makes us put our money where our mouth is.
Mhm.
And what I've learned about Brian is this is a guy is not doing this simply to pay the bills. He's doing it because it's his passion, lifelong. And he wants to do good by you. He wants you to gain because of it. And that's why he's committed to it. Any closing words you'd like to share with us as we sign out?
Yeah, all that's very true, Joe, and I'm just impressed by what you do, man. I mean, you listen, and then you reframe it, and you say it in such a great way. So it's just a pleasure to hear you talk and to
Okay.
have this experience with you.
Well, thank you, Brian. And by the way, audience, no, I did not pay him to say this. No, this is not rehearsed.
Nope.
And we're having fun, by the way. I think
Oh yeah.
we can be functional in life, enjoy each other, and I think people who are happy with what they're doing are more likely to do it well. Thank you, Brian, for being a guest. Remember, folks, to share us, leave your comments, to subscribe, and this will be an ongoing regular program. If you'd like to be a guest, for me, check the link below in the description section. If you'd like to learn more about Brian, check his information also. Have a good day, folks.